Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Gloat Fest 2024. Oh, sorry. Well, it is Gloat Fest, but Beer Blather 245, the Gloat Fest. And before I even start with the presentations, I know I had it here. Yes, we did it. Wicked Witch number 2 is no more. The reign of brainlessness, incompetence, evil, and fascism is over. In January, Trump will become the 47th president of the U.S. in a feat we had not seen since Grover Cleveland won his second term in 1892. And that was with the help of a third party and the Democrat Jim Crow laws that disenfranchised the then very, very Republican black population. Trump's only aid came from common sense, the falsity and duplicity of Kamala Harris, not to mention her obvious lack of acumen, and the general state of malaise, consequence of 4 years of a government more preoccupied with tarring and feathering political rivals than administering the affairs of the Republic. Even the Amish showed up in unprecedented numbers to deliver Harris a fatal blow in Pennsylvania. The Democrats fucked around and found out with them. The time to rebuild our nation will be fraught and difficult, but it starts in January. We can now be permitted to enjoy the winds of liberty, and why not? Gloat. Unstable future cat ladies shave their head in solidarity with, I don't know, the Manson girls? Laugh in their faces. Democrat wenches threaten to not have sex or children? Rejoice in the improvement of our gene pool as a consequence of their abstinence. And laugh in their faces. Apparatchiks in the Pentagon, the DOJ, the DOS, the FBI, and elsewhere are fearful? They should be. They had their fun. Now the piper is coming with a long overdue bill. They can always sod off to Canada, or better yet, Iran. Surely John Kerry and Jake Sullivan will be well received there. In November, America told the fascists to piss off. Dismantling the fascist state won't be easy. It permeates every department, institution, and branch of government, from self-regulated agencies to DEI policies in the military, to the miserable creatures who use the power of the federal government to persecute their political opponents. It will require all of our attention and efforts. Hell, even now, the Democrats continue to try to steal the House of Representatives as a last resort to stop change. But now, we are permitted to gloat and be happy for a short while. Don't be bashful. Take the prize. This is Saul Montes Bradley, the largest human repository of useless information from Southside Virginia, not the fucking swamp up north. And by the way, freezing my ass off tonight. And right there, to my left, Thomas Victor, the only living expert in World War I flamethrowers and survivor extraordinaire in the swampish California Democrat hellhole. Yes, that's the one. Hello, Thomas. How are you? Hello? Did Gruesome eat your tongue? Are you frozen? What the hell's going on? You were just waving goodbye.
Are you having problems on your end in terms of production?
No, but I'm having trouble with your connection. Oh, well, California is already in the third world, and the internet connection is proving it. Thomas, try to get out and back in if you can, and let's see if we can correct this. Holy moly. I have to see. Let me check and see how this is going on online. Yeah, I'm fine, Thomas, but you are screwed. Let me get you off and try to reconnect. We were people, for those of you out there, we were having like the liveliest conversation not 5 minutes ago. And he's trying to come in. And hello, there we are. Are you in?
Hi.
Hey,
I'm in.
hello. I don't know how your old screen we're still in too.
This is non-viable.
What's going on?
I have no idea what's going on. I don't know. I have no idea. You keep freezing and speed up, and then you freeze, and then you speed up, and then you freeze, and then you speed up.
Do me a favor.
So I can't understand a word you're saying.
Well, if you can understand this,
you're frozen right now.
Okay, I'll send you a message. Hold on, people, just 1 second. And sometimes I do hate live things. Okay, I just sent Thomas a message. Hopefully he'll get it. And let's see what happens. I can see off stage that his image is not frozen anymore, but I fear his internet connection may be having the hiccups. Let me check the chat in the meantime while we kill some time. Let me see. We started with Godspeed, Michael Brown, 25, 26, 27, 28. Don't forget the flame. Don't forget the flame. Yes, indeed. Please do. This will be epic. Well, I hope so. Apparently, the internet connection in California is not as enthusiastic as you are, Donita. I'll settle for sane. Stop the weird pictures, assault. No more rainbow flags on embassies. Among other things. I won't settle for that. That is a first precondition, but we're not even negotiating after that. They are ruining my rainbow, says Donita. Well, frankly, at this point, I don't give a shit about rainbows. The stupid rainbow flags. I know so many people who flip to Trump from their Easter pride twerking hose on the White House lawn, says Stacy. I don't doubt it. Not sure how long I can stay awake, says EIU alumni. But I'm here now and we'll finish BB tomorrow morning. That's perfectly fine. We're very good for breakfast. Greetings, Antonio. Benvenuto. Ben arrivato, carissimo. Okay, hold on just 1 second. I'm getting a call. I'll have to mute you for 1 second. And there we go, people. That was Thomas. He is rebooting and restarting. So hopefully we'll be fine in just a second. Mubby, hello there. Stacy, thank you so much. My husband and I, says Stacy, voted with 13 people we red pilled at work. They gave me their stickers. I will save them forever. There you go. Make a picture with them. I think Thomas's neighbors have family next door. They've been blasting music all afternoon and still going. Yeah, isn't that wonderful? Cross your fingers, people. And here's Thomas. Hello. There
Hello.
we are. Hello. Now I can hear you.
I'm getting something screaming at me. Cancel.
Your neighbor?
No. it's amazing. Technology is great until it doesn't work, and then it's horrible. So
yeah, I totally agree. I totally agree.
Yeah, before you would freeze, and then your speech would come, and it would be like a paragraph all super sped up. So you would freeze, and then you would go, then you'd freeze.
Like, I like that. Maybe I should try it and see if people are paying attention.
Well, it can't be any weirder than what's going on today. We went from total shock and disbelief, and then now today, we're at rage, rage from everybody, rage, most stupidly, rage from Democratic politicians, and
you mean the party of joy and love?
Well, they're laying the groundwork for like defeats in the midterms and then defeats in the next presidential election. They're already laying the groundwork. It's like their message is going to be, if you don't support us, you're a Nazi. Only Nazis support Republicans. So they're going to be getting more and more.
Everybody's a Nazi. Blacks are Nazis. Amazing. Chicanos are Nazis. Latinos are Nazis. Everybody's a Nazi.
Trump got 40% of the American Jewish vote, which means that we've got a whole hell of a lot of Jewish Nazis in this country.
Yeah, isn't that wonderful, though? I kind of like the way these people are describing it. And of course, at the same time, you know Hakeem Jeffries, that paragon of democratic values, came out with a tweet today, kind of Tish James is a good person. I know her. I worked with her. Lay off of her and get your paws out of my girl type of shit. And my answer was that I want to see her fat ass in jail. Hello, you froze again, or are you just looking?
You want
to...
What?
You're freezing again.
Yeah, so are you.
Wow, amazing. Okay, let's hope it works. Or sometimes, after a while, it gets normal. Are you yet feeling unburdened by what has been?
I'm just glad that they're all like, they're all part of the ash heap of history now, where, what did I hear? The notion, we're not done fighting. Kamala said that in her concession speech.
Yeah,
we're not done fighting. And it's like,
you may think you have won, but you're not. We're not done fighting.
You had your butt handed to you electorally, like across the board, and you're still not done fighting. And it's like, okay, prepare to lose even more. It's amazing. We live in amazing times.
We do. I'm still, it's like 312 electors. Take this, and you know why they lost? Because there are 15 million. The 15 million voters that showed up for Biden returned to Moscow. Where are those 15 million that came out of nowhere and went back to nowhere?
I know you mentioned voter. Yeah. Unfortunately, Saul, this show tonight is unviable. I can't understand a word you're saying.
I know you're freezing all the time.
Is the audience? Are they?
The audience can see me fine.
I can't understand you. Is the
Yeah, maybe you have to turn on Odyssey and watch me there. Apparently, everything is going
Let
on
me let me
fine. Okay, hold on. Let me say this so that people can hear me on here. I'm going to call this gentleman and see if we can fix this. Holy crap! You're coming and going from the screen.
keep fine.
Now on
Yeah.
the
No,
inner
it's
screen, I
this
can see
isn't
you
viable.
fine. Are you still there having trouble?
Well, let's keep going and see what happens.
Okay. Because while we were talking a little while ago, you went off the screen completely. But we'll see what happens. If you had
Yeah.
trouble again, don't even wait to talk to me. Just reboot everything, because apparently that there's a problem in the connection, and you shouldn't have it. Thomas is good now, says Vandine. I know, I can see that. Antonio, Sol is good. Thomas is not good. I think Thomas would beg to differ. He's good too. Oh, you mean his image? Sorry. Now Thomas looks clear and smooth, like a baby bottom, perhaps. Yes, he looks fine. Seems to have improved on Odyssey. Well, I'm checking Odyssey and I'm checking YouTube, and frankly, the image there was kind of crappy. Thomas was having some problem with the upload, but it seems to be doing okay. And now that you're doing fine, let's not waste time with this and go straight to the issue.
Yeah, the issue is we get to gloat a lot because we've been called Nazis now for, well, 8 years. But they really ramped it up this last time, the last couple of
Oh
months.
God,
Uh,
they're still going at it.
oh yeah, they're still going at it. And what's hilarious is that the lack of self-awareness. I mean, these people are committing political suicide. They already did, but they're making it even worse for themselves. And there's a complete lack of self-awareness among these people. And I'm not talking about celebrities or TikTok weirdos. I'm talking about leftist politicians. I mean, they're off their rockers. Um, they're literally making it impossible for any thinking person to vote for them in the future. So I don't know what their game plan is.
No, you see, the problem is that they've repeated this lie. You're wrong, by the way, that they've been calling us Nazis for 8 years. They've been calling us Nazis in fucking Reagan.
True.
They've been calling us Nazis forever, for 40 years, and then some. And of course, it's all self-referential. As you and I have discussed so many times, if there is a party platform that mimics the NASD or the fascist party in Italy, is a Democratic Party platform. These are the same fucking Nazis and fascists that they've been for 60 years, except that they like to point fingers at everybody else to kind of distract from the fact that they are proposing the very same policies that Mussolini and Hitler proposed for domestic policy.
Well, Republicans aren't collectivists. Trump is not a collectivist. Therefore, he's automatically excluded from Nazism. The only collectivists out there are the Democratic Party and the Green Party, and there's a few other smaller ones. But the hysterical sobbing I'm seeing in these TikTok breakdown videos, and these are older people. These are people who are alive and aware. when Trump was president first time around, they're acting as if they have no idea who Trump is. They're acting as if they've completely forgotten his first term. And
Yeah.
these are true believers. These are people who honestly believe that their non-white and their non-heterosexual friends are all going to be exterminated. They believe it. And
Yeah.
this is mental illness.
Maybe they'll recommend them to move to Iran or something.
Well, I mean, Michael Cohen said he was going to leave the country, and then the very next day he said he wasn't. And it's just like, I mean, I saw him on MSNBC, and he was a buffoon. I find it shocking that this was Trump's personal lawyer, and Trump is himself admitted that he's made mistakes in choosing various people, and he's not going to do it again. I heard today that Pompeo is not going to be in the Trump cabinet.
And Nikki Haley won't be there either.
Yeah.
Both of them announced on the same message. And I would like to express my condolences to Pompeo and Haley for their being informed that they will not have a position in the Trump. Oh, who the fuck am I killing? Good riddance. I don't care. I'm sick and tired of a bunch of people, and those two are part of the bunch of people I'm sick and tired. I'm glad they're not going to be in the next administration. Thank you. Goodbye. Next.
Well, there's a lot of people we don't even know about. Trump's, as you and I were talking about yesterday, Trump's choice for his White House chief of staff. Nobody saw that.
Wait till the morons wake up.
There's a lot of people who. What?
Wait till the morons wake up and realize that she used to work with Bush.
She worked with Bush. She worked with DeSantis.
Yeah. I like her, by the way. I'm not criticizing her.
Well, I mean, none of us are in a position to give Trump advice or to make demands on him. He won that election, and I saw Breitbart. They laid out all the headwinds Trump had. From the global media to the Justice Department to the entire Democratic Party to all universities.
Russ, you're freezing again.
Institution in the United States, blackness. Every institution in the United States was, opposed Trump, and he won. Now, what's the official total for the money that Kamala spent? Is it 1.1 billion or is it 2.1?
A little over 1 billion. The relationship is 3-to-1. Trump spent about 340 million, and she spent 1.1 billion.
She spent 3-to-1.
Yeah.
She made a tiny handful of public appearances. Trump began campaigning well over a
2
year.
years ago.
True. Yeah. And okay, Kamala had nothing to offer. She made no appearances, and all she did was on ads that were so ridiculous that everybody basically ignored them.
Yeah, or buying celebrity endorsements. That didn't fly well either.
Yeah, she paid Beyonce $10 million to babble away about abortion. For half minutes.
She paid Oprah $1 million. Oprah,
yeah, Oprah is a billionaire.
You would think the bitch would do it for free.
No, okay, the era of celebrity endorsements is over. And to be frank, the era of I mean, how many appearances on mainstream media did Trump make?
Oh God, directly or indirectly? Indirectly, he was on mainstream media all the time.
Well, in person, how many times did he sit down with someone in mainstream media?
I don't remember, but he did sit down with ABC, CBS, Fox, CNN. He did that, and by the way, so did J.D. Vance, to the chagrin of the idiots they put to interview him.
J.D. Vance did something like 80 odd interviews.
Yes.
Or maybe it was even in the 90s. But Trump sat down with podcasters, and
yes,
that was the idea of his son Barron, and Barron was the one who vetted the podcasters. And since this, I've heard multiple leftists say we need our own Joe Rogan, and I heard somebody on the panel talking about it, saying, well, he is our Joe Rogan.
I was gonna say he was their Joe Rogan. They lost him.
And Joe Rogan is a leftist.
You froze again.
What they're
going to do
is they're what they're going to try and do is they're going to try and recreate the podcast version of Air America, and it's going to fail because it's going to be nothing but invective. And when the political bigwig does an interview with them, it's going to be totally fake. It's not going to be like Joe Rogan and Trump, and nothing will change. They will have spent tons of money recreating Air America on podcasting.
Well, the thing is, Air America worked like shit the first time around. It fell like a fucking lead balloon. What makes them think they can do it again? And succeed?
They're saying that they need a left podcasters that are as big as all the right leaning, and this is not going to work.
No,
they have no ability.
The good news. The good news is they're going to blow a shit ton of money trying to do it, and they're going to fail.
Well, another reason, there are major leftist podcasters. There's one named Fox. There's one named Hassan Piker. I can't think of any others.
Well, how about Ken Korigor? How well is he doing with his podcast?
Who?
Uyghur.
Who?
The stupid Turk who wanted to run for president.
Yeah. No, see, the problem with leftist podcasters is, number one, all they do is spew invective. And number two, they all hate each other. Leftists have suddenly lost the ability to work with each other. And this time around, the Republicans really worked with each other. They got rid of the establishment Republicans, and they got rid of the rhinos, and the remaining rhinos and establishment Republicans went in for Trump. And I don't see leftists uniting with each other anytime soon. They're all pointing the finger. They're all blaming each other. I haven't heard anyone. They haven't blamed Kamala herself yet for being a horrendous candidate, but they blame Tim Walz. They're blaming George Clooney. They're blaming Nancy Pelosi. And my brother pointed this out. After every election loss, the Republican or the Democrats say we screwed up our messaging. And it's like, no, you didn't. We heard you loud and clear. We just rejected your message. You know,
Yeah.
this notion that they just need to explain themselves just a little better, and then we'll all go, oh, of course, I'll vote for you. They keep doing this, and we heard Kamala loud and clear.
How many press conferences did Kamala take?
What, 3? 2?
Real press conferences?
None.
You know, the one where you answer questions?
None.
Not one. She made a couple of public announcements and didn't take any questions. That's not a press conference. How many in even the arranged environments? How many questions did she take spontaneously?
Well, none, because
0. Everything had to be prearranged, and she was reading the replies. Even in the stupid Univision town hall, you could see the teleprompters. She was reading the teleprompters, answering the town hall questions. That wasn't a town hall. That was a propaganda fair.
Yeah.
And people noticed that. How many? She had to get celebrities every time she came out, or only 20 people would show up. And when she promised that Beyonce was going to be there and did a stupid thing in Harris County, Texas, because Beyonce told them she wasn't traveling anywhere.
Mm-hmm.
You want me to show up at the circus? You bring the circus to my doorstep.
And you bring $10 million.
And you bring $10 million for me to walk out of my house. And they did that. And she went there, spoke for 3 to 7 minutes, gave a couple of kisses in the cheeks to Kamala, and left. And there was almost a riot because people went there for a free Beyonce concert.
Yeah, and all the people who the Democrats thought were going to swing the election by their endorsements, like Taylor Swift, they thought Taylor Swift was going to swing the election.
Yeah, the woman who's only known because she doesn't know how to pick a man.
Yeah, and I mean, Taylor Swift has no discernible personality.
No.
And the thing about all this, okay, think about it. They bring out Robert De Niro. I saw Harrison Ford. The Democrats had all these actors doing these grim, angry endorsements that were filmed in black and white. Harrison Ford looked like he was 147 years old. He sounded like he was 247 years old. And he told us that Kamala was going to protect our right to speak. And it's like, you can't be
serious.
I mean, you can't be serious. The one thing we all know that Kamala does is she oppresses our right to free speech. And
the fact that Kamala and Tampon team weren't on speaking terms for the last month didn't help either.
Well, Kamala's team blamed him. And did you see Tim's stocky daughter all glumly pronouncing all of us racist and fascist? And
I was too distracted with his wife.
Yeah. No,
Let's turn the page. Turn the page. Stay with me. Turn the page. God, 4 years of that. No, please, God, spare us.
Well, also, Kamala is an incumbent who's running against herself. You know, it's time we turn the page. It's time we move forward. And we all knew that she was the incumbent. So she was basically giving us every reason in the world not to vote for her, because we were just going to get even worse. We were going to get more of the same and worse. And I'm just shocked that the Democrats didn't see this coming. That they believe that idiot pollster in Iowa who said that, reliably read Iowa was going to go for Kamala based on nothing at all.
I mean, we have those idiots too. I had a lot of people tell me how Virginia was definitely going to go red, and I say I doubt it. I want to, but I doubt it's going to happen. When those people in Fairfax and Loudoun come to vote, they drown the rest of us. But still, I mean, how about the moron? What is his name? Lipchik, I don't know. The one with the 13 keys.
Oh yeah, yeah. The guy with the eyebrows that look like TV antennas.
Looks like a fucking cartoon, doesn't he? And
he was on. He was on with his son. And they were stunned that America
he can reproduce.
Oh yeah. The two of them were just absolutely stunned that this had happened.
Because the thing with the keys, I always said the keys, like every single one of those keys is arbitrary and subjective because you have to interpret the key. It's not data, it's not measurable data. It's feelings. So, of course he can predict elections in the past by applying the keys today because he knows the results in the past and his interpretation of the keys is such that it works. But you can't predict. I can predict better by pulling on a chicken bone than these stupid 13 keys.
Well, the reason I knew that Trump was going to win, the reasons, he was polling much better than he'd ever polled in his political career. Trump always he always underperformed in polls, so I knew he was doing a lot better that way. The number of Americans who said that the country is going in the wrong direction historically meant that the incumbent wouldn't be reelected.
No. By the way, she did too well, considering that 80% of the country thought the country was in the shitter or going there.
Yeah, but see, I mean, what is it about horseshoes and hand grenades? I mean, winning by 51% is the same as winning by 80%. I mean, all I care about is that he won. And
ultimately, yes.
You can't get into the brains of these people. Okay, in Virginia, they voted for Kamala for president, and then they voted for a Republican governor, correct?
Well, that was 2 years ago.
Oh, 2 years ago.
Right. It actually 3 years ago. And remember, the governor elections in Virginia are in off years.
Right.
Are sandwiched between general elections and midterms. And that's a different bird altogether because there is no national campaign. There are no huge PACs. Some of those bureaucrats in DC are going to walk on fire for the Democratic Party on a general election, but are going to stay eating Cheetos and watching telenovelas if there is an election in Virginia. They don't give a rat's ass who sits in Richmond. And we also had the second running of the moron, or the second time that Terry McAuliffe or Terry McAwful was running for governor of Virginia. And Terry McAwful is more corrupt than Idi Amin, universally hated. And he had a big problem in Virginia the first time around when he got the Muslim Brotherhood and Hamas supporters into the governor's house with positions as director of liaison with the Muslim community or shit like that. So there were a number of factors that got together. And it was 3 years ago. For all I know, the election of Yanking is the exception that confirms the rule. The second thing is that Yanking, knowing all of this very damn well, stuck to local issues in the Virginia election. He didn't talk about national issues, abortion, Trump, bullshit. He stuck to taxes, logistics, public response, things. The fact that Virginia had a problem that California cannot even imagine, that is, it had an enormous surplus. And among other things, he promised to return that surplus to the taxpayer, and he has been doing that, eliminating taxes and sending refunds. So that's a very peculiar occasion. A year ago, when we had to renew the Senate, and all we had to do was take one extra senator to give Yanking a majority, we couldn't. We lost one. Virginia is not a Republican state.
No, and the reason that I can tell. Okay, I saw. We've been seeing compilations of Democrats, leftists reacting to Trump's victory. I saw compilations of conservatives reacting to Trump's Trump's victory, and it's completely different. Not only rage and sorrow versus happiness, but just the types of reactions themselves that Democrats, for the most part. Well, okay, look at Joe Rogan. Joe Rogan. He basically said that J.D. Vance convinced him to vote for Trump. So if J.D. Vance hadn't gone on Rogan's show, Rogan may have voted for Kamala, knowing full well that she's a disaster.
Yes. Because
leftists vote, they don't vote based on rationality. Like Rogan has...
They vote the party line.
Well, Rogan has consistently explained what he supports, and what he supports are policies that lead to outrage. He supports policies that lead to the very thing that he opposes, and this is the problem with leftist voting, is that they vote in Californians in this time around, they voted for a permanent half-cent sales tax to help out the homeless. And this is after it was revealed that the state had spent $36 billion on the homeless, and the homeless numbers keep going up.
Yep.
So, I mean, this is not being able to use your brain. That if you think just giving more money, I mean, they're not thinking about it. They just think, oh, homeless, we have to help them. Help means giving money. Therefore, I'm going to vote for this.
What's a half cent?
Well,
can't we afford a half cent to help the poor?
Yeah, exactly. And what they also say is, if we just pay just a little bit more, just a little bit more. No,
yeah. Now, $31 billion, they could have built 2 cities. Take a look at what the Saudis are building with $31 billion. With $31 billion, you can build a city for all the fucking homeless in North America, not just the U.S.
Right. And the issue in California is that the money goes toward this gigantic infrastructure of government workers. So it's going to salaries, it's going to pensions, it's going to freebies, it's going to benefits. So
it's going to NGOs.
It's going to
NGOs, which is the way the Democrats have of buying votes.
Yep.
So they're going to give millions of dollars to the organization to help the homeless, the organization to feed the homeless, the organization to jack off the homeless on Saturdays, the organization to take the homeless to church so that they can apologize for jacking off the day before. All of these, where all of the directors, CEOs, employees are going to eat up 70-80% of that money. And with the remaining 20%, they're going to throw the homeless a couple of pieces of chewing gum and magazines. And that's it. They waste the money on themselves.
Well, if you ask the average Californian voter about, what type of person is homeless, you won't get them to admit that the majority of these people prefer homelessness. And the reason, the way you can, the proof of that is the fact that California has built endless dwellings for homeless people, and they are never used. They're never used. These people prefer to live on their own terms, and the majority of them are mentally ill and or drug addicted. So these aren't the sort of people that you can. Okay, do you remember years ago there was a homeless man, and he was begging for money by the side of the freeway on-ramp, and he had this amazing voice, and so they got him a job doing voiceovers, and he did a voiceover for macaroni and cheese, and he got a house, he got everything, and within a year and a half he'd blown it all, and he was homeless again. He was a terminally homeless man. He was offered jobs with his wonderful golden voice that he turned down, and he spent all his money on drugs and prostitutes, and he didn't keep up the payments on his house, and that was the end of that. So this guy is representative of the average homeless person living in California. I can't say anything about homeless people in other states, but we have edging up to almost half of the country's homeless people living in this state. I mean, it's incredible.
Yeah, well, it's better to be homeless in California than anywhere else, for that matter.
Yeah.
When I studied the issue years ago, in colonial New England, there weren't any homeless on the streets. Well, amazing, because you would say, there were no social networks, no minimum salary, none of the fascist shit that started popping up after 1950. So how come? Well, how come is simple. The general court would fine any town who did not house and feed the homeless. Of course, they weren't called homeless at the time. That is bullshit that popped up in the 60s. And the local cop would jail them if they bypassed the house of the poor and decided to stay on the street for loitering. So it's a simple approach. You provide the cities, not the state, not the Crown of England, not the governor of Massachusetts. Each town was responsible to have a house for the poor. And everybody who happened to be, somebody lost their farm or lost their house in a fire, or were robbed on the way there and didn't have money to fend for themselves, they had to be housed and fed by the community. And on the other hand, they couldn't be panhandling or loitering about. And lo and behold, it worked. Now we build shelters, and they say, well, I don't like the shelters. Why not? Because there's too much violence and drugs. Holy fucking shit. Why? Why? You mean that we cannot police those shelters? You know why there is drugs and crime in shelters? By design.
Well, when I lived in the Netherlands, I can't remember when personal use drugs became legalized, but when I lived there, I moved there in 75 and it was already legalized. And you just didn't go to Amsterdam because it was a crap city. It was run down as compared to the city where I lived. I lived outside The Hague.
Yes.
And I don't know what it's like now, but I do remember
a
that
shithole.
Well, I remember that the Dutch built these, prostitution is legal too. And
Yep.
the Dutch built these roundabouts, and they had these little, they were like bus kiosks, not a kiosk, like a bus shelter. And the prostitutes would stand there and you would pick them up in your car and you would go somewhere, and usually she would, stimulate you, and then you would drive her back to your kiosk. And all the prostitutes there were Mexican, and they all had AIDS. And the documentary I saw, the news report, the Dutch always claimed that, they forced their prostitutes to have regular health checks to make sure they weren't spreading VD. They weren't making
like that works.
Prostitutes do it. And the reason they weren't making the Mexican prostitutes do it was because it would be considered racist. So in the name of avoiding appearing to be racist, they were spreading AIDS. And it was just like,
Well,
people,
now they're killing Jews.
And now, yes,
in their efforts to not appear to be racist, they're hunting Jews in the streets of Amsterdam.
Exactly. Yeah,
Talk about stupid.
Well, if you scratch any European, you're going to find some pogromer.
Yes.
It's in their blood.
You're going to find the fascist. It's in their bloodstream.
And the funny thing is, okay, they elected Geert Wilders in the Netherlands. He wants to deport all the criminals, but I mean, it's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. How are they going to round him up? They're going to have to get the cops to do it. The cops won't do it. The cops stood by and watched it. The cops stood by and watched. The cops stood by. Of course they did.
The cops in Amsterdam
the cops stood by and watched the Israeli fans getting beaten up. So the cops.
Of course they did. The cops in Amsterdam are immigrants from North Africa.
Yeah.
Of course they stood and watched.
Yeah.
These are the people who don't protect synagogues, and they have a moral objection to protecting genocidal citizens from the Middle East, many Israelis.
No, and see
it's conscientious objectors. Go fuck themselves. They have to start by deporting their entire police department.
Well, also, I mean, okay, this is another thing. Joe Rogan said that the Israelis were committing genocide. Joe Rogan, and I mean, nobody knows the definition of the term genocide. They just use it, just like they use the term Nazi and
killing people
and misogynist and all of that. And all they're doing is they've robbed all these words of their meaning. So, the term misogynist doesn't mean anything anymore. They burned it out during this election cycle, and so to their own detriment, because the Democratic Party is run by women, and nobody's going to be kowtowing to them anymore after this. They've lost you heard Trump's lawyer, addressing Letitia James, and he says, if you don't knock it off, we're going to throw your fat ass in jail.
Yeah.
Nobody would have said that 2 years ago.
No, but it's like we're all tired of this bullshit.
Yeah.
I mean, Letitia James is the fat bitch that run on the premise of elect me and I'm going to persecute Trump.
Yeah.
But what are you going to send him to jail for? I don't know, but I'll find something.
I'll find something.
This is
find something. They made up stuff.
Yeah, it's Stalin's secret police, for crying out loud. Give me the name and I'll give you the crime.
Yeah.
And she did. And they had to go through very convoluted notions. They have to make a felony out of a misdemeanor. They to justify going after him for a bullshit that would have been a $50 fine. But we need to turn it into a felony so that we can go after him. And then when we get a rigged jury of 12 Hillary Clinton voters, or worse yet, because that applies to another suit. In the what is it? Engoron was his name, the little shit flower boy in New York. That guy decides, well, no, this I'm gonna do. We don't need a jury. Why the fuck not? And he decides on his own, in spite of the evidence, that he's guilty as sin. Like I said before I took the case, he's guilty. And here's a $500 million judgment, and you have to pay it before you can appeal. What the fuck?
No, and all of that was shot down by the appeals court.
Yes. But the thing is, the whole process is ridiculous. And now Letitia James is trying to play the fucking victim, banking on, in the future, somebody calling her to explain what is it exactly that she fucking did. No, throw her fat ass in jail. She violated the rights of Donald Trump and a shitload of the defendants. It violated their Fourth Amendment rights, their Fifth Amendment rights, persecuted them judicially, used the power of the state to persecute people she didn't like, not even political opponents. And we want those people in there? Fuck no.
Well,
I want to see her in jail.
When you have the alleged victim testifying in court, we're not victims. We want to do business with Trump again.
Yeah.
And it's ignored by the judge. The judge says, well, I say there are victims. I mean,
the banks presented affidavits. No, we did our own due diligence. Because that's the other thing. I mean, let's say that tomorrow I want to refinance my mortgage. And the bank says, how much is your house worth? Pulling numbers out of my ass. $1 million. What is the first thing the bank is going to do on any and all requests for financing? They're going to send their own appraisers.
Yeah.
And the appraiser is going to say, that fucking shack ain't worth 50 grand. And the bank is going to say, well, we can finance up to 30,000, provided it's the only loan. They're not going to give me $1 million and my say so, and they're not going to do it with Trump either. And to suggest that even if I have an overvalued notion of my property, that is a crime, it fucking isn't.
No, what the crime is, the judge arbitrarily saying that the property at Mar-a-Lago is worth $18 million. That's the crime.
That's a crime. Based on what? Based on what? Where is the professional appraisal of Mar-a-Lago upon which the judge based his opinion?
I think he did something with the property taxes.
Yeah, wiped his ass with them.
Well, it's the whole thing. I mean,
this is Florida. I guarantee you, Mar-a-Lago pays more in property taxes than the whole valuation of this judge.
well, what I saw a lot in these videos of leftists weeping or screaming or raging, they all said the same thing. Trump was a convicted felon and a rapist.
Yeah,
And
what felony was he convicted of?
well, that's, if you ask them, they wouldn't be able to tell you. They would be able to tell you.
No one.
And the fact that, okay, they're calling him a rapist based on that old weirdo who said that he did something to her in 1 year or another.
Yeah, and I don't remember when, and I don't remember what.
The judgment was that he did not rape her. He
Yes.
sexually abused her, but he didn't rape her.
Yes.
So he is not a rapist, and he is not a felon.
Even if he's guilty of whatever he was found guilty of in that sham trial. You're correct.
Yeah, I mean, it's...
Even if we assume everything else is correct, they did find that he did not rape her.
Exactly. So what Democratic voters have shown us is how weak-minded they are. They are incredibly weak-minded people who are simply parroting lines fed to them by the likes of Rachel Maddow and I saw that old he's been there forever on MSNBC. He was the Swift boat anti-Swift boat nutter. I can't remember his name. But once again, he was demanding that the Electoral College be disbanded and that we go to a direct democracy. And it's like, you're wasting our time. Like that's literally never going to happen. Why are you bringing it up? This is so weird fantasy you have.
Because we attack the Constitution, but they don't give a shit about what's in the Constitution.
Well, he said that the Electoral College was suppressing votes.
Well, I don't know. Work towards a constitutional amendment. Little shit. You cannot dispose of the Electoral College any more than you can dispose of the judicial power.
Well, this is the thing. They're all saying, we should enact laws that demand that Trump voters wear their MAGA hats. It's like, why are you wasting my time saying something like this? Or my favorite was this real weirdo with like her mouth was like this wide, and she was saying, I'm gonna, wherever you hide, Trump voters, I'm gonna come find you. And universally, the answers were, who's hiding? Nobody's hiding. We're very glad to have publicly voted for Donald Trump.
I'm hiding under a Trump hat, asshole.
Exactly.
I have to say that even Trump is guilty of some of this shit on purpose. In one of his policy announcements, he says that he's going to propose a constitutional amendment to finally have term limits. Well, good fucking luck. It's not going to happen.
No.
But what is he doing? Why is he saying that? Because essentially he wants off his back all of the monkeys who carp about who carp about term limits all the time. They're going to be pestering him for the next 4 years. We need term limits. We need term limits. We need term limits. Great. What do you need? Here's a couple of $1 million. Go organize and go for a constitutional amendment drive. And send me a postcard from La La Land. When you understand it, it's perfectly fine. But to actually want it is so fucking ridiculous. Don't waste my time.
Well, the people who are in charge of constitution or of term limits are the voters.
Yes, we have term limits.
This election proved once and for all the voters have all the power. And in a constitutional in a representative democratic republic, we get the government we deserve. And, we're getting Trump this time around because people actually came out and voted in sufficient numbers. But stop with the complaining about politicians and term limits and all that. We have all the power. We really, really do.
You know what else this election showed?
A lot of things.
Whoever's got the most money doesn't mean shit.
No, just spend him 3-1.
He was outspent by the two witches. Hillary outspent him.
Mm-hmm.
And now Wicked Witch number 2 outspent him again. And the guy who spent the less won. And the gal with all the billionaire support in the world lost. Oh, you mean the amount of money spent by the campaign is not directly proportional to the results? No, it never was.
And we've seen this. What was the guy in New York who he was like a truck driver or something, and he spent 10 grand on his campaign, and he unseated somebody.
The president of the Senate.
Exactly, that's who it was.
The president of the fucking Senate of New Jersey.
Yep.
A 20-some-year-old veteran of the New Jerseyan legislature. And this guy, you are correct, he was a truck driver, although he did most of his campaign on a Harley.
Yep.
Honest to God, I think the character was beautiful. And he unseated the long-established incumbent who was president of the New Jersey Senate on a $10,000 budget.
Yep.
So don't stop. It was the communists who came up with the canard that money buys elections. The rich have an advantage, you see. It's not true.
No,
it's not true.
The voters have and always have had all the powers. The only reason the 2020 election result happened was because there weren't enough people voting for Trump, and they were able to pull off something that they weren't able to pull off this time. This time it was a landslide. And
it was the COVID restrictions. Let's not bullshit ourselves. It was all of the violations they did of common sense, the constitutions of various states, and the law across the land in order to facilitate people voting from home. Because we couldn't ask them, they can go to the mall, they can go to the restaurant, but we cannot ask them to come and vote because, COVID. And all of a sudden, the anomaly that we noted at the time, and a lot of people did, all of a sudden, we went from 60 to 85% participation rate. All of a sudden, we went from an average of 65 million voters to the winner to 85. Now some Democrats are looking for the 15 million votes they lost. They never lost it. They never had them. They were made up.
Exactly.
They were the result of harvesting absentee and mail ballots. They were the result. Remember when the brother of Ilhan Omar was bragging that it was easier to fix an election in Minnesota than in Somalia, that he was buying blank absentee ballots for $5 to $20.
Well, this time around, in various states, they were using the tried and true 400 people with the same address,
yes,
that sort of thing. And this time
they
around,
tried it in Lancaster. This time around, they tried it, and in Lancaster County, the Republican Party managed to put an injunction on several sets of 2,500 ballots each, where you had 400 ballots with the same address, 2,000 ballots with the same hand, and false addresses. Come on, they're still trying it, and I'm pretty damn sure they're succeeding to a degree in Arizona and Nevada.
Yeah, I mean, they Carrie Lake and Donald Trump are on the same ballot. And how many voters are we talking about anyway? Like 5 million?
No. I think Trump got 1.3 million.
Right. So if they were able to count Trump's votes, they should have been able to count Carrie Lake's votes.
Of course. Of course. But they want you to believe that people who voted for Trump voted for Gallego, the little asshole who's nothing but a ass leaker of the Mexican cartels.
Yeah.
I mean, if it was somebody else, even Kirsten Sinema had a reputation for being a decent person. But Gallego, are you shitting me? Really? People who voted for Trump also voted for Gallego? You gotta be out of your fucking mind. It didn't happen. It didn't happen.
The thing that this election showed us was that Republicans can't ever go back to the way they were before. They can't go back to this lofty, above it all, refusal to fight, refusal to contest, refusal to call out what's actually happening. They have to fight just as hard as the Democrats do. And eventually, if the Democrats get tired of losing, then they'll demand laws against. It'll make it easier to have one-day voting with paper ballots nationwide, that sort of thing. As long as we use their techniques against them, and the end result is that they keep losing and losing and losing,
yeah.
And eventually they'll demand cleaner elections. Here in my city, for the first time, I've been voting here since I was 18, and there was an hour-long wait at the community center where I always vote. And so they had to open up a second voting station at a nearby high school. And when I went there, the people who had volunteered to direct us were electioneering. They were telling us to make sure to vote blue. And, I was going to vote my red. I had no illusions about how the vote in California was going to go. But I just took a look at the people who were demanding that I vote blue, and like they were broken down carcasses. They were wards of the state, and they, one old guy missing half his teeth, who's an old guy who's probably younger than me. He's saying the women are going to save us this time around. They're going to keep everything blue. And I was
they sounded like General Perón.
Yeah, I mean,
General Perón used to say, I won my first election with the men, the second with the women, and I'm going to win the third one with the children.
Yeah, I mean, the women did come out to vote, and the majority of them voted for Trump. So,
Let me make a little break here momentarily. I'm not monitoring the chat in YouTube, and I encourage people who are watching us in YouTube to click on the link and come to Odyssey to participate in the chat. But there is one here who has done something that forces me to noblesse oblige answer his question, because this chap is dropped $10 for every question. And I wish he had done it in Odyssey, because we're only going to get $5 out of this. YouTube keeps 50%. But he's making the effort. The first one is not even a question, is I knew we were going to win because Saul never lies. Well, neither does Thomas, my friend. And we seem to agree on this one pretty much. The second one is a question. Do you think Trump will truly drain the swamp this go around? surround himself with true patriots? Well, number two, surround himself with true patriots. I have no doubt. Will he be correct on every decision he makes? Probably not. He is human after all. Uh, but overall, yeah, he'll have this one. And I'm beginning to understand to what degree he has learned from past mistakes. We all make
Well,
mistakes, we all learn from them.
Elon Musk said that we still he said that we have no idea what's coming. I
Oh,
believe
I'm beginning to have an idea.
yeah,
And
no,
they're gonna squeal. They are going to hear the screams of the apparatchiks in Mars. I think that Trump wants to get a ship to Mars so that he can record the wailing of the Democrats from the Martian surface.
yeah, I mean he has no reason not to. Like
Mm-mm.
in 2016, he very famously said that Hillary had gone through enough. And he also said, I remember this, he said he didn't want to hurt the Clintons.
Yes.
So this time around, I mean, 2016 was dirty, but the Democrats have spent the past few years illegally targeting Trump through the justice system. So he has no reason not to do as much damage as he can to that system, the deep state, whatever you want to call it. He has no reason to hold back. And I think the majority of Americans would want him to do that.
Oh, I feel like Shylock.
Yep.
I want my pound of flesh. I don't give a shit.
Yep.
We all, Trump, probably more than most, although he can probably afford it better than most, we all have lost. Every family that had to pay $500 in electricity to keep their ass warm, every guy who had to let the car insurance drop because he couldn't afford it anymore. Everybody in Florida who's got a judgment for unpaid, what you might call it, assessments, because everybody got hit. I have a friend of mine with an apartment in Aventura, Florida, who got an assessment of $100,000. 20% of the value of the apartment, because the insurance rates and the electricity rates and the water rates all multiplied by factors of 2 to 3. Never mind 20% or 30%. No, we're talking 300%, 1,000%. The insurance in my mother's building went from $180,000 a year for the building to $1.3 million. So everybody got a $10,000 assessment. And a hike on the maintenance and all the jazz. These are middle class people who had to sell their homes because they couldn't pay for them. These are all people who had been living there for 25 years, who had to move to a home because they couldn't afford to pay the assessments and the new maintenance. Everybody suffered under this, under these sons of bitches. Everybody who had to scrape to pay gas at $5 per gallon. There was no reason for that. There is no reason now. Electricity rates should be half what they are. And Trump is, in the first 6 months in office, going to set this straight by freeing the energy industry from the clutches of fucking morons and idiots and green agendas. I can tell you the damage that this green bullshit has done in the US and around the world, in Europe, is something to cry about. Oh, we're going to let the rivers return to their normal courses. We're going to restore nature. And they tear down dams, and as a consequence, flash floods destroy entire cities, and hundreds of people are buried in mud in their building's garage. What happened? FEMA telling its people to bypass houses with Trump signs?
Yeah, I saw that.
And they actually, FEMA admitted that was a true message. I thought it was an exaggeration or a joke. No, it wasn't. They actually did it.
Well, that's because the people who oppose Trump, they don't just oppose him. They rabidly hate him. And so they want to see, I mean, the Secret Service and the FBI, they're going to have their hands full studying all these videos of these people who are offering to pay for, trigger fingers to go after the president-elect. And these are teachers, these are college professors, these are bankers. These are insane people. These are people who are calling for a world that they would absolutely hate to live in themselves, and it doesn't occur to them. I was very disappointed when Obama was elected both times. And both times I went, crap, there's going to be consequences and I'm not going to like them. And then I went back to what I was doing. I didn't need a week off of school where I was going to drink hot chocolate and eat cookies and work on coloring books. I didn't need that. But these are people who need that. These are people who they're sending these bizarre messages of support to each other that read like they were created by some kind of alien AI. I mean, like do you guys really talk like this? You do? God Almighty, it's incredible. But they're just parroting everything they've heard from those they consider authoritative sources. That's the weirdest thing to me, is when people all start speaking exactly the same way and they start using all the same vocabulary, and it's impossible to tell them apart. I don't know. It's so bizarre. I foresee a ton of people fleeing here to California, where they can be amongst, like-minded people, and they won't ever have to be confronted by a different opinion.
Imagine that. But I don't know if my weak psyche could withstand you being in disagreement with me.
Well, think about it. I get electioneering.
I'm going to curl up in fetal position and suck my thumb. Maybe I'll even shave my head.
I get electioneering from some volunteer right outside the polling place, and I just kind of went, yes, and just kept going. I didn't stop and say, "How dare you? I will videotape you. I will call the police."
Do you know who you're talking to? I have long experience in this. I know more than you know, and you're wrong. That's the argument.
Well, I didn't even respond. I mean, this guy he had a crutch, he had missing teeth, he had a huge pot belly it looked like all his skin was sagging from his body. I mean, he was, like I said, he was a ward of the state. He was some guy getting, tons of money in to help his chronic medical conditions, and he had this. He sort of knew a little bit about the election. It was the women, they're gonna save us. It's like, oh gosh. Now I'll bet he goes home and he eats cans of frosting with his bare fingers.
But by the way, speaking of saving us, let me make a very special mention for the Amish.
Yeah.
Thank you. Danke. These people, for the first time ever, the Amish came out in droves. The pictures and videos of the little Amish horse boogies going to vote with Trump flags was emotional. The Amish usually don't give a flying fuck about the English voting their leaders. They did. Of course, part of the deal is these idiot Democrats decided to go and fuck around with a dairy farm that catered to the Amish. And apparently, they didn't dot an I or didn't change. I deal a lot in my area. There are Amish galore, and I deal a lot with the Amish. There are no better carpenters around. If you need carpentry done in your house, if you need, to do any kind of carpentry work, they'll be the best. They will take their time, and they will only take cash. And they will only work in peculiar because there are things they don't use, like electric lamps or shit like that. Oh, by the way, thank you, Pro Clarish. And I deal with Amish butchers. When I had the restaurant here, I had the best lamb and beef. I had it from local farms, but I couldn't use it in the restaurant because I had to use an Amish butcher, and they were not certified by the health department.
Wow.
I used it for myself. And usually they didn't cost me anything because I would always make a deal with the Amish butcher. You here's the cow. I want this, and that. You keep the rest. Thank you very much. Goodbye. And it always worked for us. But that being the best freaking Angus beef in the country, I couldn't use it in the restaurant, or the deer, or the lamb. Well, the Democrats decided that the Amish couldn't use it and came in and closed them down. And the Amish decided, well, you mess with us, we mess with you. I have to say that I personally believe that there are many people, that success has many, 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 many fathers, and failure is an orphan. So right now, there's a lot of people taking credit for Pennsylvania. I think the largest share of that credit goes to the Amish community. And until I saw them come out to vote, I didn't know it was coming in these numbers.
Well, Scott Pressler actually moved to Pennsylvania and spent over a year
registering students and all that jazz. But frankly, 100,000 Amish, he had nothing to do with that. Zero. He had to do maybe with the 20,000 that completes the number. But the Amish, nobody is talking about it, and I think they deserve a huge thank you from the nation. And it is, this doesn't take down from whatever Scott did. Mazel tov. Good work anyway. my point is nobody talks about the Amish, and we should. And we should talk about why. We should talk about the Democrats overreach was their undoing.
Well, what the Democrats do is they screw you and then they demand your vote. And that works in certain places like New York City and Southern California, but it doesn't work in the rest of the country. It's an amazing mindset here in California because everybody complains constantly. They complain about the governor. They complain about the legislature constantly, and then they just vote the same way they've always voted.
Yeah.
George Gascon, the DA, was voted out of office.
Yes,
but he still got a quarter of the county voting for him. And like, this is a guy who basically decriminalized crime. So we had multiple people committing murders, getting released, committing more murders, getting released, committing more murders, getting released.
Yeah.
And and still a quarter of the county voted for him.
It's insane. Remember, there is 20% of imbeciles that will vote for whoever destroys them best anytime.
Sure.
Let me address two things here. By the way, don't get me wrong with Scott Presler, and not only Scott Presler. He did even work with the Amish to help them register. Elon Musk provided vans to take the Amish to the voting booths because they cannot drive vans, but they can ride in them. So there were a lot of people who helped. But I'm just, what can I say? I am betrothed to the Amish after what they did. I didn't expect those numbers from them. Godspeed is posing another question. That is something that you and I have discussed. Can Trump have California, Washington State, and Oregon to eliminate absentee voting this time? By the way, why only those three? Colorado is almost entirely mail-in ballots now, too. Trump could have flipped one or two of those states if it wasn't just mail-in ballots. I believe so, too. Now, we have assuming we get the House, which is still being fought tooth and nail, and ironically, will ultimately depend on the number of congressmen we get from California, of all things. And fortunately, it looks like the Republicans have flipped several districts there.
Yeah, 10 today.
Yeah. That's going to do it. That's going to get us the majority, hopefully. The Democrats are fighting tooth and nail and have taken out all their guns to lawfare this election into a House majority for them. But if we do get the House, as I think we will ultimately, there is no excuse to not have an Election Integrity Act passed by the House and the Senate and ratified by Trump within the next 2 years, urgently, forbidding the use of mail-in ballots and essentially going to what we have been saying for years, Thomas, since we started talking in 2017. We have agreed on basic principles. One citizen, one vote on election day, in person, no mail-in ballots, no absentee ballots, no early voting, in secret, on paper, and stop the shenanigans. And there is no reason why the results can't be known 2 hours after the polls close. And if we do that, oh, you'd be surprised what the real results would be in places like California.
It was in the 2016 election that California changed over to this hybrid electronic paper system. And you take a piece of paper and you shove it in this machine, and then a touch screen appears, and you touch. And then when you get to the end, it prints out on paper what you voted for, and it spits it out, and you look at it, and then you shove it in again, and then it goes into this container.
Yep.
But prior to that, you were given a piece of paper that looked like an airline ticket, and you put it in this little plastic holder, and they gave you there attached to the holder was this little pen that was it created dots, and the dots were like magic marker type ink, and so it would say, you know, president, vice president, and you would look until you found who you wanted, and you would press the dot, then you would turn the page, and then it would, and so you basically dotted all your choices on this ticket, and then at the end of the day, these tickets would be fed automatically into a reader, and you know, you would have the end of you would have the election results in a matter of, like you said, 2 hours. And then in 2016, we went to this new system, and every time I've gone to to cast a vote under the new system, there's at least one booth that's out of order. And in the old days, nothing could be out of order because it was a
you fill in a paper, you put it in an envelope, goodbye.
Yeah, exactly. And
nothing breaks.
Yep, nothing breaks. And this time around, okay, since 2016, they always put Trump at the very last. It's not alphabetical, but they always put Trump at the very last, and he's usually hidden. It'll have
on the second page
candidates running, and then he'll be on the second page, and usually by himself. But you know, it's I don't know. I got my apps. All Californians get mail-in ballots now, and so the opportunity for cheating has basically been doubled.
Oh, come on!
Because I can vote,
Trump,
but I
Trump
can also
still got 40%.
Yeah. No, it's
with all the cheating. And by the way, everybody gets mail-in ballots, and harvesting is legal in California.
Yeah.
So we have the Democrats going house to house, and essentially either asking for the blank ballot or filling it with the people right there. And they literally changed election results in more ways than one.
Sure. And
they have fail-safes to their fail-safes.
Well, also, okay, California, if you want to run for office, you have to get a certain amount of names. And if you're a Republican, then they will disqualify just enough names to where you won't get on the ballot. It happens every single time.
Every single time.
And there's never a reason given. Why did you disqualify this? Why did you disqualify that? Oh, you know, we're yeah, exactly.
Let the courts decide. You know, about 3 years after the elections, you'll be reinstated.
Yeah. No, I was taken off the ballot after 2016. When I went in to vote during the midterm, 2018, they said I was not registered to vote in California. So they gave me a provisional ballot, which means, you know,
nothing to wipe their ass with it.
Yep. And it took me a long time to get back on the voter registration roll. And I was never given a reason for why I was taken off, and the reason why I was taken off is what, at the time, I was on social media, and I was kicking up a storm about Trump, and
Yeah.
so they came after me.
Yeah, and you don't need to have an army coming after you. You need to have one asshole who goes, look, and you're no longer there.
Well, this is the thing. I was debanked for a while, and I was prevented from using PayPal. I was prevented from using, what the hell is it? It's named after the Pony Express or whatever. It's another money sending service. What the hell is that one? Anyway, it was three money sending.
PayPal, Zelle.
Pardon me?
PayPal, Zelle. The other one is property of PayPal. People think it's a different thing, but it's the same.
Well, it was three different services, and then my bank called me and they asked me to come down to the nearest branch, so I did, and they told me that they'd gotten a call from the feds to debank me, and that they told the feds to shove it up their asses.
And let me remind people that this was in part due to the activities of a bunch of assholes who we threw out of Quod Verum, of social Quod Verum, who are still. They're still. I'm looking for something here that I'm going to put on screen in 2 seconds. They're still bleeding through their assholes. They're still protesting because you son of a bitch, you kicked me out of Quod Verum. Yes, what I regret is that kicking you out of Quod Verum was a figure of speech, because I wish I could have done it in person, kind of like grab the neck and kick the ass into the sidewalk type of deal.
Well, the reason,
but the actions of those assholes is what caused this trouble to you.
Right. Also, there was an article written by some guy named Michael Rothschild who,
over this shit.
He tied me to the QAnon movement, and at that time, the QAnon were official like domestic terrorists, and so I got debanked, and it was only Wells Fargo. I've been a customer for Wells Fargo for like 40 years. And, anybody who sticks with a bank that long is considered a VIP. And so, they told me that, they've been ordered to debank me, and they said no. And that was the end of that. And then I got back on PayPal by reporting them to the Consumer Complaint. It was created by Elizabeth Warren, and PayPal contacted me by phone, and they said, "Oh, it's a terrible misunderstanding. We don't know how this happened. You're reinstated. Is everything great? Are we good? Please." And they did that to my brother too, Tim. And Tim gave them a piece of his mind, and you never want Tim to give you a piece of his mind. It's quite unpleasant. But I just said, yes, everything's fine. And I let bygones be bygones. But don't let...
What else are you going to do?
Don't let people tell you
have a lifelong feud like West Virginia or Sicily?
No. Don't let people tell you that the government won't come after you for having double plus ungood political opinions, because it happened to me.
They will, and they did. Yep. Look at this. This is one of the assholes, the guy who goes here by Orange Elvis. This is one of the assholes. We kicked him out. No question about it. I'm proud of it. I followed Thomas Victor before he went dark and got kicked off Mastodon. I mean, come on, really. Like 3 times. And if you had come another 5, you would have been kicked out another 5 for questioning the vaccine and other reasonable posts. Do you remember those anti-vax Q-tard assholes?
So I got kicked off Mastodon for questioning the vaccine.
And other reasonable posts.
Oh, okay.
Now, remember what policy we had in Quad Verum? We
Yeah.
didn't delete shit.
Yeah.
All of the reasons why we kick people are still there for people to see. So let people judge whether they were reasonable or not. But look at this. That other guy, that would be yours truly. I'm the other guy, the baldy.
You're a
Was
troglodyte.
a troglodyte, which is appropriate for Mastodon, and likely an IC asset.
Oh, excellent.
Oh,
Everybody
God, why the fuck did I get my checks? Now, who is he crying to? The lettuce peddler, the guy who was selling lettuce in a Publix in Florida, pretending to be a conservative pundit. Remember that?
Two old bearded guys were demonizing you.
You, the lettuce peddler. I never demonized the lettuce peddler. Yeah. Or on a payroll. We always have to be on a payroll because these idiots cannot think anything new. But by the way, I never ever demonized conservative treehouse. I hold them in contempt. There's a difference. But anyway, there you go. This kind of shit poster is the kind that got us in trouble. And you showed up in that Michael Rothschild article that also mentioned Quad Verum Forum, and Quad Verum Forum began to appear as a target in a number of publications, and you know how that would have gone, and by defending ourselves at the time from these imbeciles, we managed to survive and still be here. But everybody paid for the political persecution.
Well, see, this happened to me twice. This happened in 2014 when I was debunking the Pallywood videos that are accusing Israel of killing children. I had a hit piece written about me that it follows me to this day, where they said basically I was hallucinating and I was insane. Then it happened in around 2018. I had the FBI come to my house. I had the attempted debanking, all of that. Oh, and then it happened, the Michael Ross. So it was 3 times. The Rothschild shit happened, what, just a year ago? A year and a half ago? So, I mean, don't let people tell you that there aren't consequences. There are people who will go after you, and in some cases, I've heard of people showing up at people's houses just over political disagreements. And
both of us were swatted.
We were both swatted.
And both of us were swatted because some asshole had a political disagreement and decided to express their concerns to the police, the FBI, where the fuck it was.
Yeah, when the FBI showed up at my place, I was very cheerful and helpful and admitted to sending the dreaded email that they showed me. And, basically they ended up telling me that they had no case. And, if I'd listened to certain people, I would, get off my property, feds. I will not, I will stand here, shoot if you want, old gray beard.
You would have a J6er for a cellmate right now.
Well, it's just, the whole thing is dumb. It's I mean,
and you remember what happened to me that very night that the cops came. I ended up having dinner with a presiding judge in the district court, the Commonwealth attorney, and the chief of police, and we were laughing into the late night. And then they told me, we know, don't worry, we know this is bullshit, but I asked them, well, can you give me something that says that so I can see if I can have myself reinstated in social media? And they said, no, we cannot, because the law mandates a 1 year long investigation. We cannot do anything until a year from now. And for a year, I was under a red flag investigation, courtesy of these assholes.
Yeah. No, I mean, the people that we just saw, I mean, they're basically no different from radical leftists. They're all about hating those who disagree with them. And the reason I don't do, I mean, okay, there's 2 wars happening now that I could be posting a hell of a lot about, but there's no real upside to it. If you post something, if you post information that nobody else knows and hasn't figured out, they'll get really angry at you, and they'll start spreading really, really detrimental.
You are you're on the payroll of somebody.
I'm on the payroll.
You're working for the intelligence community, whatever the fuck that is.
No, and if you think about it, okay, how many people got the Russo-Ukraine war right and are getting it right to this day? And how many people got the Israeli Hamas-Hezbollah war right? I mean, we were told
many on both counts.
Yeah, well, we were told that Hezbollah was undefeatable, and that the Israelis would be crazy to take them on. And lo and behold, Hezbollah is basically begging for a ceasefire. And
I'm sure there are others. But for whatever reason, you and I are the only ones I know that from the get-go said Israel is going to blow these assholes out of the water in a week. And you know what? We were wrong. They blew them out of the water in 3 fucking days. You and I are the ones that before the Russian invasion were saying if Russia invades, they're full of shit. They're going to expose their weakness. They have no army, no air force, no navy. They invade and they're going to be defeated by the most backward country in Europe. You know that they are pushing 700,000 casualties now?
Oh, yeah. Well, this is why they're bringing...
Yeah, that's why they're bringing North Koreans. North Koreans! What is it, the parasitosis brigade?
North
They're
Koreans
going to surrender for a fucking sandwich.
The Chinese mercenaries that they're bringing are absolutely stunned at what war against Ukraine is like, because they couldn't even imagine it. They couldn't imagine the drones. They couldn't imagine the incredible power of the Western armored fighting vehicles, and they couldn't imagine the sheer savagery of Ukrainian infantrymen, because the Chinese don't have any of that in themselves. And
no, but they can parade pretty.
Well, the North Koreans are now providing the Russians with light machine guns because the Russians can no longer manufacture their own. And the North Korean version is it's like a copy of an 80-year-old design. And I don't know, it's really bizarre. Currently, the Russians are trying really hard to take back all the territory that the Ukrainians have in Kursk, because the Russians want to be able to have the upper hand in whatever negotiations that Trump wants to have between Russia and Ukraine. And the Russians will say what they've always said: we get to keep all the land we've taken. Ukraine has to be completely demilitarized, and it can never join NATO, and we get to put in our own government. And these are all non-starters for the Ukrainians. I've heard that the Europeans are suddenly, there's a massive uptick in talking between the Europeans about really, really speeding up and upping the ante when it comes to them providing their own weapons. So it could be that
they've been talking about that for 35 years. In the 90s, they announced the European Army. France and Germany were going to supply the basis of the European Army so that Europe could be free from NATO and they could provide for their own security. Where the fuck is the European Army?
Well, what I was talking about is speeding up the providing of weapons for the Ukrainians.
No, that they are talking about, yes.
Right. And that would basically, Biden and Kamala, I don't know if you noticed, I'm sure you did, they kept talking about how the U.S. was a world leader. And Trump doesn't talk that way. And it could be that the Europeans may be able to take care of arming and equipping and training the Ukrainians. If Trump simply, the reason the Ukrainians got so few F-16s was because the Biden administration prohibited all these European countries from giving their F-16s.
Yes. European countries promised Ukraine over 60 F-16s that they are decommissioning and have no need for. And the Biden administration is the only reason why Ukraine doesn't have them. It has a very small amount in comparison. Remember, though, it's not just the F-16s. When Poland wanted to transfer to Ukraine the 9 MiG-29s that they had collecting dust from the time they abandoned the Warsaw Pact, it was the Biden administration that opposed the move, and Poland couldn't give them the weapons that they wanted to and didn't need, Russian tanks, Russian planes, and they weren't the only ones. There were other countries in Eastern Europe that were prevented by the Biden administration from delivering their Soviet-made weapons to Ukraine. Biden has been playing a duplicitous game of talking up a storm in support of Ukraine and doing the best he fucking could to limit it. You were the first one to start talking about how Ukraine was being sent to counterattack the Russians using NATO tactics without air support, which is true. Yeah. So they were forced. We'll give you this if you go there, but you have to use this tactic that you cannot do because we refuse to give you air support or allow you to develop it. They were set up for failure. The only reason they didn't fail is because the Ukrainians are fighting like somebody who's defending their home. Imagine that.
Well, also, when Trump comes in, Trump is going to lift every single embargo.
Restriction.
And so all of the Europeans will be able to give whatever they want to the Ukrainians, and all of the Europeans will be able to defend their own countries against Russian drones coming in. Yes. We are telling the Poles and the Romanians, you can't shoot down Russian drones. Now, what in God's name is that all about?
Or missiles. I mean, Russian missiles on at least one occasion hit Romanian territory west of Odessa,
Yep.
and Polish territory west of Lviv. And the US was adamant that Poland and Romania had to eat it and couldn't respond because we don't want an escalation.
Yeah.
Eh,
No, and
Escalate
Trump,
my genital situation. Trump is going to remove these limits, and he's going to remove the condition that the weapons that we give to Ukraine cannot be used to against targets in Russia.
right.
That's gone, or rather, it will be. So
I think he's also going to work out. Too many Trump voters think that we're spending money on Ukraine that could be spent somewhere else. They can't get it through their heads that we're not sending the Ukrainians pallets of cash. We're sending them equipment. So I think Trump is going to find a way around that. So it doesn't people won't think, oh, he said one thing and did another. But
don't worry, he'll manage. He did it before.
He did it before, and
he did it before. He did it before in Syria. He did it before in Afghanistan. He will do it now. He will do what is right.
Yeah, and he's also going to make it more possible for the Europeans to. I mean, they've already stepped up, but they'll step up even more.
Yeah. It's not only a mourning in America again, it's mourning for the whole world.
Yep.
There is, I'm getting all kinds of stuff from European countries, from South America, of people seeing the election of Trump as a deliverance of sorts.
Well,
it is amazing, really.
I saw the video of the Japanese celebrating Trump's victory.
Yeah.
They're all wearing MAGA hats and waving American flags. It was the weirdest thing I've ever seen.
You know that I saw one and I thought of you. It's like, who the fuck would have ever guessed that Japanese, and I saw several from Japan, one from Okinawa.
Mm-hmm.
Okinawa, about 20 years ago, if I recall, when I was going to the base there all the time, Okinawans were not too keen on Americans. There was a lot of movement to close the base in Okinawa because the locals didn't want Americans there. That is changed, by the way. It's amazing what terrorism is spreading through the world does to have people reassured by the presence of Americans. But the thing is that now I saw Okinawans celebrating Trump's election. I said, what the fuck is going on? These people weren't too keen on Americans. Never mind celebrate an election in America. And they were doing it.
Mm-hmm.
Go figure. You know them better. Am I wrong being so surprised by it?
Well, the reason they wanted Americans gone is because Americans were leaving behind a lot of half Japanese, half white, half black children, and Americans tended to get drunk and not behave themselves in a certain way. And the Japanese also, they still haven't really come to terms with World War II. On the one hand, they still see themselves as the victims because of Hiroshima, Nagasaki, and the firebombing of Japanese cities. They see themselves as the victims. They think that they're unfairly picked out. You know, after all, everybody was fighting, so why are we the ones? It's like, well,
because you weren't surrendering.
And there are, when I was in Japan, there was a movie made called The Last Emperor, and it was about Emperor Puyi. And in the movie, they showed newsreel footage of Japanese atrocities being committed in in
China.
let's see, Shanghai and Nanking. And this movie was banned in Japan because of that. It was eventually shown, because I did see the movie in Japan. Not a very good movie, but they did not want that footage shown, and the footage is it's reality. Do you remember seeing? There's a famous photograph taken. It's a Japanese officer with his sword over his head, and he's about to behead a kneeling Western soldier. And this guy was eventually identified as an Australian. And, they just took him down to the beach. He and two New Guineans, they just took him down to the beach and chopped their heads off and took pictures of it because, hey, got to send pictures back home. Well, when these pictures were recovered,
look, man, no head.
Well, the Japanese did everything in their power to suppress this information. And it's like, look, you guys living today, you're not the ones who cut off those heads. You're not the ones who did all that stuff. Just accept history, accept reality. And I'm not worried if the Japanese rearm to the teeth. I'm not worried that they're going to go out and try and recreate the greater East Asian prosperity sphere.
And frankly, if they do, we should bomb the living fuck out of them. If they do. Oh shit, frozen. Yeah.
Well, it's just not. I'm back.
Yes.
No, I'm just not worried any more than I'm worried the Germans would do that. I mean, it's a completely different era. In fact, it'd be rather nice if the Japanese and the Germans started doing a hell of a lot more militarily.
Well, I totally agree, but my commentary was I don't fear them either. I agree with you. They want to arm themselves to the teeth and help keep, the China Sea opened and helped in the defense of Europe. I'm all for it. Same thing for Italy. Actually, I think they should start paying for their own defense a little bit. And I also think that if some fascist asshole decided to take over Japan and start rebuilding for a war, we'd have plenty of time to beat them back into the fucking Stone Age before they can do any harm.
Well, what people don't understand about the Japanese is that one of the great motivators of World War II was this deep sense of inferiority. The Japanese felt that they were not recognized as the great power they were. In the Russo-Japanese War, the Japanese defeated the Russian Navy, and it was a global shock. And then in one, the Japanese were technically on the Allies' side, but all they did was attack It was a German colony, and they attacked it, and they took the colony and basically just sat there for the remainder of the war. They didn't send any troops to the Western Front or the Eastern Front or anything. And Tsingtao, they attacked Tsingtao, which the Germans had, and they took the fort at Tsingtao, and they took the German colony. And then after World War I, they developed this incredible inferiority complex where they felt that they weren't recognized as the great global power they were. And so what motivated them mostly in World War II was creating this empire that would be on a par with the British Empire and, the United States influence over South America and all of that. And the Japanese no longer have that sense of inferiority. They're not in danger of starting another war in order to prove that they're all that. The same with the Germans. The Germans don't have the need for Lebensraum, and as we were talking about before, you scratch a German and you're going to find a Jew hater.
Oh yeah.
And in the case of the Japanese still have major problems with the Koreans, with the Chinese. It's all to do with ethnic and racial issues. But the Japanese aren't going to invade South Korea and colonize it again like they did in 1910. They're not going to do that. And they're certainly not going to invade China.
And
we're not going to have another.
And the Germans wouldn't survive an invasion of Poland today. By the way, did you notice the socialist, communist Green Alliance in Germany is collapsing as we speak?
Oh yeah, yeah.
Scholz is against the ropes.
Yeah. No, I mean green.
Look at that. Despite all the fucking criers that France is lost to the communists, now we have Bardella as prime minister, and France did a turnabout face to the center right faster than anybody could realize it. In England, we noticed that the elections gave the Labour Party, the socialists, only 1/3 of the electorate, and the assholes think they have a mandate.
Mm-hmm.
They're in so much fucking trouble now that I'll be surprised if they can survive until May. They're very much against the ropes. Right now, as we speak, police are charging with batons on hundreds of thousands of civilians protesting the socialist government. This is a new one. I don't know if you even got time to read it. On the streets of Madrid, riot police are charging against civilians with Spanish flags, asking for the resignation of the socialist president of the Council of State. It's amazing what's going on in Europe. Trump is part of a greater wave of movement to the center right, because let's face it, Trump is not as far right as these fuckers say. Trump is center right at most, if not fully center. Well, he's one of the most reasonable people I've heard around here.
Well, that's the thing. He's a common sense. He spent years as a Democrat, and he is a Republican. But when you think Republican, you think of the giants of republicanism. Ronald Reagan. Trump isn't very similar to Ronald Reagan at all. Trump is more of a nuts and bolts guy, and Trump wants things that Reagan alluded to, but Trump wants them to actually happen, and he knows how to make them happen. Everything that Trump does, it stems from his career as a commercial real estate developer. So he knows everything. He knows about factories. He knows about the working class. He knows about tariffs. He knows about taxes. He knows everything. And it's that knowledge that makes him. You can't be a commercial real estate developer and be some pie in the sky guy. You have to be a realist. You have to be.
It's the same as an engineer. You deal with facts and data, not with pie in the sky and unicorns.
Exactly. And
which doesn't mean lack of imagination.
Trump doesn't.
It doesn't mean a lack of imagination. The thing is that when Trump built the Trump Tower, It was one of the most talked about things in New York City because he could build that high. The guy was crazy. He'll never get the permits. He used so many creative ways of setting back the building, creating public squares up in midair. Uh, and he did it. And it was a mix of ambition, imagination, and full control of reality. And that is how he is with other stuff. And he had to make concessions.
Well, the East Coast Mafia, got most of its money from controlling the cement trade on the East Coast, and Trump wasn't he didn't end up in the pocket of the mafia the way so many other developers did. But nobody's quite sure how he did it. My guess is that, what's that?
He had to deal with them.
What?
That he had
to deal with them. He also, I think, wasn't afraid to get his hands dirty when dealing with them. He had Cubans. What did you say? Yeah.
No. That was before he probably heard an echo. Hello?
Oh.
Are we having problems again?
Oh, it's all right. I don't mind.
Okay.
Yeah, it's Trump doesn't say things like, a shining city on top of a hill or stuff like that. I mean, that worked during Reagan's time period, but it's a different time period. And the woman who wrote that particular speech ended up voting for Obama.
Noonan. Noonan is a fucking imbecile.
Noonan.
She's an idiot on steroids.
Oh, did you see what's the guy, the bearded guy with the bald head and the glasses, who's he's part of the Lincoln Project.
Oh God, I know where I'm kind of balding too.
Yeah.
Chubby.
Well,
I know who you're talking about. I don't remember the name.
Rick something. Well, he gave his final prognostications for the election, and Kamala was going to get 347 electoral votes, and he was warning Donald. He kept calling him Donald and Donnie.
Yeah,
and just we're going to come for you. Now that the Trump campaign has collapsed and Trump is old and enfeebled and he has no idea where he is, it was just like, you're a funny guy. You're a really entertaining guy.
Yeah, the
Rick Wilson.
Saying Rick Wilson. Yeah, thank you. They're correct. Funny guy. Yep. He's an imbecile. Most of his co-founders ended up with legal trouble for their love for children, and I'm not talking in a paternal sense. A bunch of pederasts, pedophiles, and otherwise corrupt little fucks. Now this one, I'm waiting to see what happens to the P. Diddy crowd now. I think the only legitimate, genuine support for Kakala came from Jennifer Lopez, whose naked pictures in P. Diddy parties tell you all you need to know.
Yeah. Yeah.
God, I always thought she looked like a fucking boxer.
George Conway of the Lincoln Project was also came out with like this spewing delusional prediction for the election, and what are these guys going to do? What's going to happen to the Lincoln Project? What's going to happen to all of
nothing,
this? I mean,
nothing. They're going to keep on grifting. Now,
but
now
who's
they're
going to?
they're gonna go into the resistance, and who's gonna give
Well,
them money? The same stupid billionaires, because not every billionaire is with the Democrats, just 9 out of 10, and generally the idiots who lucked out but no brains, like Zuckerberg. Uh, they're gonna keep financing this. They're gonna make it. It's easy to throw these guys a few bucks so that they become a thorn on the side of the Trump administration. It doesn't cost them anything, and they can even deduct it from taxes. Thank you very fucking much. Goodbye.
well, I did hear that the plan of the resistance is to use the press to scream about everything Trump is doing, and it's like, well, but you did that during the campaign, and it didn't work.
They did
So
it during his first term.
You're going to do more of the same? I mean, come on.
Yeah, nobody could ever accuse him. The other guy, the Lincoln Project, is what is it, Froome? David Froome. Nobody's ever accused these imbeciles of being imaginative. They're not intelligent people. They are assholes for hire. None of them. Name the accomplishments of Rick Wilson or David Froome or George Conway.
Well, the weird thing about all of this is that they can take this white hot hatred of their personal grudge and just keep it stoked for year after year after year after year.
It's like the little shit we were talking about yesterday, the lawyer, not the lawyer, the ambulance chaser that used to do real estate work for Trump and then thought he grew a brain.
Michael Cohen.
Michael Cohen. I mean, what do you think? He's going to change his song? The only one who's a little more intelligent than them, was better at the grief, was a bigger con. He screwed a lot of people on his way to the slammer. And he's now on his knees singing the praises of Saint Trump, the Blessed, in hopes that will eventually buy him a little goodwill for a reduction of sentence or something, and that's Avenatti.
Mm-hmm.
But Avenatti, I'm pretty damn sure, is sick and tired of being the relief female doll for the prison. Because, you know, he isn't pretty, but can defend himself. They're like sick answers, right, Robin? Yes, they are. So I don't know. They're going to keep, the Lincoln Project is going to keep copying. The idiots at The View who have lost any contact with reality 30 years ago, if they ever had any. Because, you know, everybody talks about Barbara Walters as if she had been a journalist, and they forget how she was filleting Fidel Castro, you know, on a sofa in 1981. God, the stories about these people you don't want to know. Greetings from the UK. He says, thank you for voting Trump. We have a new visitor from the UK. He's not the only one thankful, by the way. You know, the whole world is celebrating this. Everybody, I started telling you, everybody that I know from the Middle East to Argentina, from England and Holland and France and Spain and Italy to North Africa, everybody is yearning for U.S. leadership. It's the funniest thing I've seen in a long time. People who are usually anti-American intervention are now, at long last, you fuckers, we missed you. What are you going to do with Venezuela now? And, South Americans who hate U.S. interventionism want the U.S. to intervene in Venezuela. Riddle me that one.
Oh, it looks like we did have a protest march in New York City.
We did.
We did. Hey, ho, Donald Trump has got to go.
Yeah, too late, asshole. We had another one in Harvard. We had one in Chicago. They're getting ready. They sent their black uniforms to the cleaners so they can start with Antifa again. I guarantee you we're going to have more. And I guarantee you that we're going to be replacing windows in stores across the country.
In blue states, so they can deal with it.
Yeah, fuck it. It's not going to happen in my town. But it is going to happen in New York, in Chicago, in Boston, in Seattle. There was another one in Seattle, by the way. As far as I'm concerned, they can burn their cities down to the ground. Hopefully with them inside.
Wow.
Like I care. Oh, look at that. Savage elasticity saying also some craziness in Seattle. I told you. It's... They are, Gonzalo is alive and home. Great. I guarantee you, what do these people... It's like the joke of the frog and the scorpion.
Yep.
Why do you do it? It's in my nature.
Yep.
It is in their nature. Watch it. It's going to happen. We are going... But you say, but don't these idiots realize there's nothing they can do? No, because if they had the corpus mentis to realize there's nothing they can do, they wouldn't be fucking Democrats.
Wow.
They don't have an operative brain. Guaranteed.
Yeah, you were talking about the world. The world.
The world is what I'm getting from every corner of the world. From Saudi, the only piece of shit I got lately was from the Emirates, from a pro-Hamas asshole who found me somehow and started writing, and I told him, to go and get fucked by a camel, and that's an exception because 99% of the people in the Emirates are not like that. He must be from somewhere else. The reports I have from Qatar.
Yeah, they just told Hamas to leave.
Well, let's be frank about it. Months ago, they announced that if they were going to have any role in trying to negotiate a peace, they couldn't at the same time host the leaders of Hamas. So and that's when they sent them to negotiate in Cairo. Make up your mind. If you want us to be in the negotiating process, you need to leave. And that wasn't now. That was months ago. There are a number of things that have you noticed how everybody talks as if Mitch McConnell woke up yesterday morning and said, I'm going. And you have that imbecile Tucker Carlson disparaging him that, he did it on purpose because he wants to create chaos. McConnell announced in February that he was leaving the leadership position in November after the elections.
Mm-hmm.
And this was his last term in the Senate. In February, if you didn't have time to plan for the eventuality, it's because you're a fucking moron, not because McConnell is playing tricks. The same way, Qatar announced that they were going to ask the Hamas leadership to leave 6 months ago. 6 months ago. And now they're doing it.
Yeah.
It snowed in Saudi Arabia this weekend. Maybe it'll be a cold. Have you never gone to ski in Saudi Arabia, my friend? You know, there are mountains there.
No, I never actually skied.
I used to love to.
I was given the opportunity in Hokkaido, Japan, but
Yes.
I was always worried about my ankles.
Yeah. Movie Time Blues. No, the Houthis have not announced a ceasefire. That was never true. It came out from a Twitter account with an old picture of a Houthi general looking his best in a brand new, untainted olive uniform. But no, the Houthis haven't announced diddle shit. What we have now is a lot of people, either triumphalists or bad actors. This is the kind of shit that the Russians love to do to generate confusion. Look at that! Trump hasn't been president 3 days and this is happening. And then, oh no, it wasn't true. And all of you assholes bought it. Number one, Trump has not been president for 3 days. He's not even technically the president-elect yet. And won't be until the joint session of Congress declares him to be in January. Now, does that mean he's not going to be? No. He's as good as done. But let's not be like Obama and Biden and start talking about the office of the president-elect and that kind of bullshit. Trump doesn't need those shenanigans. Number one. Number two, yes, a lot of people are trying to digest this and a lot of people are going to change the way they act. But if you think, oh, Hamas, he said now it's time to end the war. You know what the asshole actually said? Now this is a good time to end the war, recognize the state of Palestine, allow us to resume government so that we can one day expel the Jews. That was the full sentence. He didn't say fuck about the hostages. Now, that guy is playing on turmoil in Israel because Netanyahu told Gallant, the Minister of Defense, to go fuck himself.
Yeah, because Gallant was playing politics with the war.
Bingo. And some of us were expecting this to happen for months. And Netanyahu felt strong enough before the election of Trump for other things that have been happening there, like the war going really, really, really fucking well. And he asked Gallant to, take a hike. So about 80% of the population of Israel backs Netanyahu. About 40,000 assholes are screaming bloody murder in the roads of Tel Aviv. Fine. You know why they can do that? Because it's a free country. What the fuck?
Yeah, it's funny because Gallant, I remember seeing a quote of his saying that they had Hamas by the throat in 2015, but then outside powers forced them to back off. And then it turns out that he was trying to undermine Netanyahu during this war by trying to work out a peace deal with Hamas that would allow Hamas to survive. And it's like, holy shit, thank Christ I'm not a politician. I wouldn't be able to deal with people like that.
No, and there are a couple more that needs to get, shoved out the door over there. It's going to happen. Yep. But it takes time. On the other hand, Netanyahu is reportedly so fucking happy he can't even talk.
Well, I remember when he said that Trump was the best thing that ever happened to Israel. So I'm sure he's happy.
The other one happy is, oh God, you don't know this one. Wait. Somebody saying poor camel.
Poor
And
camel.
I was answering her. That's it. Um, the Peronists in Argentina, you know, those fucking assholes allied with Iran and Venezuela and Cuba, are now claiming that Trump is a Peronist.
Oh, yeah.
And now, because, you know, he wants protectionism and tariffs. They don't understand shit because Trump is not a protectionist.
No.
He does believe in applying tariffs where when tariffs are both convenient and necessary, and frankly, so do I. But to call him a protectionist is absurd. And they're saying that because apparently a large percentage of the people down there looks at Trump with admiration. So the Peronists want to give the impression that Trump is one of them. You know what the answer to that is?
What?
Guess who the first foreign president that is going to meet with Trump after the election is?
Oh, it's Malay.
Milei next week. And the Peronists are going to be crying so fucking hard. That's another thing that they can record from Mars. Pity we haven't gotten there yet. Somebody's putting a message there and I don't understand it. Okay. It's not in Saudi Arabia. Yeah, it did. Well, we know that. No, I was telling people there are mountains in Saudi Arabia and there are ski resorts. But people don't realize that. Not everything is sand, desert, and sea. There are mountains too. And guess what happens on the mountain heights?
Snow happens.
Oh, amazing. Amazing how it works. You know, one of my favorite places used to be Barcelona. Not anymore. I'm sick and tired of the fucking Catalans and separatists and xenophobic little shits. One of the reasons was that I could, you know, drive very early in the morning to Andorra and ski at Escaldes.
Mm-hmm.
And then I could drive back to the, well, not directly to the city, but near the city, and go to the beach. So how many places in the world can you ski in the morning and sunbathe in the afternoon at the beach? That's one of the few. It was beautiful. Now it's filled with xenophobic social tards that have made it absolutely impossible to tolerate.
Isn't it weird how people who are xenophobic against Europeans are the ones who are supporting, you know, the untrammeled importation of people from North Africa or whatever?
Yeah.
I mean, it's so bizarre. It's like
it is. It is absolutely bizarre. It is absolutely bizarre. Now the Catalans have decided they are a separate race, and they don't want Spaniards to go live in Catalonia, but they want Moors to come back. Okay, you do you, I'll do me. Fuck you. The Asir mountain region is a beautiful part of the world. Used to go camping there regularly, says Ayo. Yes, it is gorgeous out there. Will the Bedouin be okay? It does get cold in winter, correct? Yes, it does. Yes, it does. And
well, also it's pretty freezing at night in the desert. You know,
yes,
the sun comes down, and you're going to need all the blankets you can get your hands on.
Yes, you do. By the way, you just remind me of the weather I'm having in Virginia. It's in the 80s in midday and in the 30s right now.
Yeah,
God,
we're not
what a
we don't down to the 30s, but it's the same thing here.
oh, schizo weather.
Yeah,
I kind of like it though, because that coldness at night makes the heat of the day more tolerable. You get a break, so to speak.
I'm sick of
Something
this.
that in Florida doesn't happen.
I'm sick of the sun. It's like here we are. It's the 9th of November, and it's still like boiling hot with this glaring sun during the daytime.
Mm. Well,
I
it's you know it's climate change. It's climate change.
I
I
must,
was watching a video of a place I visited last year. This is in Alicante, in Spain, in the Mediterranean shore, and right in downtown Alicante, practically, there are some artificial pools made with stones that were literally fish farms built by the Romans 2,500 years ago, and they're still there.
wow.
And you know what's fascinating? And by the way, and they could be used today to breed fish. But you know what's the most interesting point?
It's illegal.
No, the sea level hasn't moved a fucking inch in 2,000 years.
Sure.
Not 1 inch. These fish farms built by the Romans in stone 2,000 years ago are still in the same place, still work, and the sea level has not changed. It's about time people stop bullshitting, don't you think?
Well, all the people warning us about climate change are the ones who are buying massively expensive beachfront property. Go figure.
Yeah. Well, one of them is Obama. It could be due to severe retardation. You know,
Well, I mean,
just because Obama did something doesn't mean he's intelligent. On the contrary.
I don't know if you ever saw his house on Martha's Vineyard. Holy God.
Yes.
That was one of
Yes.
the ugliest homes I've ever seen.
But you see, if the seas were rising, he would have bought it anyway because he's an imbecile. By the way, that's another thing that happened in this election that that we can gloat about and celebrate.
Yeah, the end of Obama.
Oh, isn't it gorgeous? I love it. Obama campaigning his heart out with Mushel by the side and and essentially becoming irrelevant. Per art magic. Poof! His legacy is gone. He cannot talk a famished German into eating a kraut. He's done. He's gone. America is over the asshole, finally.
Yeah, and he should have noticed that when he declared very loftily that he wasn't going to support Kamala, and he was told, "Who cares? Sit down and shut up."
No, and remember when the prime minister of the Seychelles was traveling the world in the 90s, demanding help because his country would disappear under the sea in less than 10 years.
Yep.
Did it?
No,
No,
but
actually, either the islands rose or the sea level dropped about 1 centimeter. They're still there. But
well, what about Al Gore's various predictions? Oops, Saul went bye bye. Saul went bye bye. Where did Saul go? Well, now that I'm here all by myself, let's see. It's almost time to say goodbye. I'm very happy. I was very happy. I wasn't that worried about the election. Oh, there he is. I
Ah,
wasn't that worried about the election.
agents.
I was pretty sure that Trump had it in the bag, but you know, um, you never know. Given the hysteria of the last couple, say the last 2 weeks of the campaign season, given the hysteria of the Democrats, I wasn't sure if they were going to go all in trying to steal the election or, just I had no idea. I wasn't worried about Trump's physical safety, but I wasn't confident enough to say that Trump will 100% win. But then once the results started pouring in, I knew, okay, he's going to be fine.
Yeah. I'll call your attention again to the missing 15 million votes.
Yeah.
We did discuss this beforehand.
Yep.
Why is it different this time? Because this time Pennsylvania is not sending an absentee ballot to every registered voter, dead or alive. Because this time harvesting is not legal and neither are drop boxes in Georgia. Because this time there are 260,000 observers in each state, virtually. Actually, not in each state, that would be an exaggeration, but hundreds of thousands of observers and teams of lawyers ready to act on a moment's notice, as they did in Georgia, in Pennsylvania, in Missouri, and they stopped dozens of attempts to load the ballots in favor of the Democrats in Lancaster County, in Fulton County. And did they manage to stop every attempt? No. But enough. And the best proof is the return to the statistical mean. When you have the winner of every election for 20 years getting around 60 million votes, and then somebody gets 85 and then it goes back to 60, you know that spike is not natural.
Well, the voters didn't exist, or they were no longer alive,
or they were alive but not voting. You see, the problem is in some jurisdictions you had suddenly participation spike from 60 to 98%, in some cases 112. But there were many places with 80% participation, 90% participation. Those are Saddam Hussein's numbers. In the US, it's never like that. And I don't believe it was in 2020. I believe those were all of the absentee ballots that were issued without being requested and were filled by Democrat activists voting for their own candidate several thousand times without the voters even knowing they voted. I can almost guarantee you that based on those numbers alone. But, now we have a better control of the situation. And now they couldn't do it. In some places, like in Arizona, Nevada, and even in some jurisdictions in Pennsylvania, they're still trying. Now you have Mark Elias trying to reverse the Republican victory for the Senate in Pennsylvania. And you have these people desperately trying to find votes under a mattress. Elias is going back to court to demand that an injunction be removed that prevented votes to be counted if they arrived after election day. There we go again.
Mm-hmm.
There we go again. Why would a vote arrive after election day without a timestamp? Because it was fabricated after the election, for crying out fucking loud. You don't need a lot of imagination for this. I'm the type that says, if the signature doesn't match, there's nothing to be cured. Fuck it. Go away. It's not a valid vote. We don't have to hold the hand of every fucking moron who doesn't know how to vote or didn't. So I definitely think they're still trying, but it isn't enough anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a good thing. We still need the Election Integrity Act while we have a majority and can pass it, because they're gonna innovate after this. They're gonna
Mm-hmm.
try again and harder in 26 and in 28.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Movie Time Blues. It's such a relief to see that many of the suspicions we had about the 2020 election were proven to be correct. Yeah, it is depressingly reliving. So anyway, and good news over good news. Hillary Clinton is more of a political cadaver than she was. Obama is gone, and this is the last we ever saw of Kakala. She may want to fight, but she's not gonna can. And Gwendolyn.
She fight. She stole that from Trump.
I know, isn't that amazing? God. So, the fact that I know we're never going to see Tim Walz again, it's delightful. Let Minnesota eat its own shit and not send it to us. But I feel even better that when Walz will never be seen again. Frankly, that stupid chicken with a screeching voice and the manner of a teenager with severe schizophrenia stamping for her husband was a little bit too much even for me. God, screeching. Team Who, they're saying in the chat. Yeah, Team Who, fuck him. I feel really sorry for little boys in Minnesota who are going to have his undivided attention from now on, because God, he does look like a fucking perv to me. Does he give you that vibe?
Yeah, I mean, there's something wrong with him, just like with Tim Kaine. There's just something wrong. There's something wrong.
Tim Kaine, we know. There are stories of Tim Kaine in Nicaragua and Guatemala that have survived decades. Tim Kaine, the Jesuit missionary to Guatemala, who was very fond of the boys in his charge, and even fonder of Sandinistas across the border, that he is still a senator for Virginia, I find singularly shameful. God, and he does have that vibe too, doesn't he? Oof. Now, on a watch election wizard on next. Okay. Cackles can now do what she does best: use her oral skills on something other than talking. And who told you he does it best? Because I don't think that Willie Brown wants to be a repeat customer.
Well, I mean, she's got nowhere to go. I mean, nobody's going to give her a show. Nobody's going to pay her $25,000 per pop to speak at a school. He may go on like the political Chitlin circuit and,
Yeah.
give speeches for like 2,500.
Oh, she may get a little more help from Democrats ensconced in academia and get 10 grand to speak at, say, Stanford or something like that. They have the budget for that. But that's it. I mean, she's not going to get the big book deals. By the way, remember the book deal Obama got 65 million advance when she. Where's that book? You mean he pocketed the money and never wrote the book? Oh my God. Why didn't we think of, oh yeah, we did think of it. We always thought it was payback. But, says Red Rabbit, she is now unburdened by what has been. True, but no more unburdened than we are. She may get some sort of position at Howard. I've said this to you before. There's something particularly wrong with Howard University. Howard University is not the only university for black students in America. There are many more. Wilberforce, Holy Hill, now Rust College. There are many. But there is one that systematically produces the worst assholes that infect our government. People like Emmett Sullivan, remember the infamous judge?
Oh, yeah.
That called that called General Flynn a traitor and refused to allow the Department of Justice to withdraw the charges. Remember that asshole? Howard U. How about Rudy Contreras, the ignorant little fucker that was not only in the Flynn case but also in the FISA court? Howard University. Remember the majority leader of the House under Nancy Pigliosi it was from Delaware. What was his name? Jeremiah? Not Jeremiah, something close.
Yeah, don't remember.
Somebody in the chat will remember. Howard U. All of these assholes, judges, congressmen, congresswomen, Kakala, they're all Howard University. You have no idea how many apparatchiks in the Department of Justice. There's something wrong with that place. We need to cut all federal funding to the fuckers, because they are producers of the worst class of bureaucratic nightmares that we have. Okay. What is this? Newscom reminds me of a Batman villain.
Yeah,
you're the one suffering him.
Out there that shows a picture of him smiling next to a picture of the Joker smiling, and it's like identical.
Holy crap. No, that's bad. At least the Joker had the excuse of the accident. Savage elasticity, yes, and that's why I said it. You're spot on with Howard. Howard is, keep an eye on it. Keep an eye on it and see how many assholes they have shoved down our throat in the past 20 years. It's scary. What was? I think it's no. Sorry, I have to look this up because nobody in the chat is coming with it. He was from Baltimore. Elijah Cummings.
Oh, yeah.
Elijah Cummings is another asshole from Howard University. I'm telling you, every door you open in Howard University, there is a turd on the other side. And there we go. We are on time.
Hello, David Dinkins.
David Dinkins, the mayor of New York.
Yep, he's from Howard.
There you go. Another fucking asshole. He destroyed the city. He destroyed the city, and he had shit for brains. There we go. Another one. Wherever you look, find the most incompetent. And by the way, there is another characteristic of the Howard graduates. They're brainless little drones, but they are arrogant, brainless little drones. They think they're the best when they're barely make the category of turd.
Thurgood Marshall.
Well, no, that I wouldn't say that, but that is too long ago. That is before Howard turned to shit. At one point, all of these were. At one point, Harvard was a great school.
True.
Or Columbia, but after the 50s, they began to decline. In the 70s, they turned to shit. And by now, they're bowls full of shit. Somebody says here, even more frightening, and I'll take his word for it because it sounds like par for the game. Howard University medical school graduates are an absolute nightmare in residency. I'll take your word for it. I don't know that. Dinkins gave a good deal for the Tennis Association because he loved the U.S. Open. So? And Deb is coming with Elijah Cummings. Too late, Deb. Where were you when I needed you? Thank you. Anymore. Anyway, anything that we wanted to talk about that we didn't, Thomas?
I don't think so. I think we covered most of the topics we wanted to talk about.
Okay, or the ones we remembered at any rate. So, thank you very much, everybody, in the chat for your participation. There was a lot of participation. Look at that. I forgot about you, Boob, again. So, and there is a lot of people who are commenting, even though I very clearly put the first comment in that chat that we would not be monitoring it. So sorry, guys. But if you wanted to participate in the chat, you should have clicked on the link and participated in the chat on Odyssey. It's not that big a deal. You don't need to be rocket scientist. You don't need to be Elon Musk to just click on the freaking link and come to Odyssey and participate in the chat. But since you didn't, oh well, what can I say? Sorry, we missed you, but not sorry. And for everybody on Twitter, hello, thank you. Enjoy the freebie while it lasts. And the same thing goes to YouTube. Enjoy the freebie while it lasts. One of our chat participants tonight sent a $1 donation, Thomas, and I think it's great.
Yeah,
and I think it's absolutely great. And I keep telling people, if half the people who watch us would do the same thing, we wouldn't have to scramble to pay for our resources. We would be able to afford a production. We wouldn't have any problems with connectivity anymore. So, folks, if you enjoy this and you like us to continue doing this, if you cannot give a lot of money, that's fine. If you drop $1 every time you join, that will go a long way. It has a tremendous multiplier effect. So please do it if you can. The same thing applies to SQV. And of course, you can do this by clicking on support and make a donation to the channel, clicking on the $sign in the chat box and making a donation in the chat with your question or your comment, clicking on join, God forbid, right there, and join the channel with a monthly subscription that will afford us a budget. Or if none of this is to your satisfaction, you can always contribute at quadverum.com/support us, which is also the place where we received donations to pay for Quadverum Forum, or SQV, Social Quadverum, where we can continue the conversation when we are off screen. So thank you very much to everyone tonight. And Thomas, the one thing you were, I'm sure, expecting today, do you have a last word for us?
Gasconade.
Gasconade. It wouldn't have something to do with the peculiar character of the people of Gascoigne. Maybe not. Gasconade. Thank you so much, Thomas. Thank you, everybody. Good night, and enjoy the Trump era. See ya.